Hello, my name is Pat Patrician. I'm a professor at the University of Alabama at Birmingham School of Nursing, and I'm a retired U.S. Army colonel. And I'll be talking to you about preparing your Tri-Service Nursing Research Program final report. We're going to review the significance of a final research report, prepare the final report on your Tri-Service funded research study in accordance with the Tri-Service guidance, and prepare a final report within the allotted time frame. So we're going to talk about the time frame and why it's so critical. So if you don't have it right now, I'd like you to download the final report page and have it available as we go through each of the components of the final report. So these are the reports that are required of Tri-Service Nursing Research Program. The interim progress report, which is due 6 months after the award start date. The annual report, which is required on the annual anniversary of the award start date throughout the duration of the study. You are to submit your annual report within 30 days of the award start date. If you have a one-year award from Tri-Service, of course, you won't have an annual. You'll just have the interim and the final. The final report is due 90 days after the study's end date. So you have those 3 months to wrap up your study, wrap up hopefully your IRB too, and finish your report. The general requirements for the report: you're going to send your report to Tri-Service through your grantee organization. So you don't send it directly to Tri-Service. Your grantee organization, whether it's Henry Jackson Foundation or another, or your school, is the one to review it and send it to Tri-Service. You need to submit your report on time. Late reporting violates the terms and conditions of your grant. If this occurs, there could be a price to pay. So you could have an adverse report that's given to the Tri-Service Advisory Council that may affect your future grant funding. Your court chief will probably know about it if your report is very late. If your project is a mentored project, i.e. you have a mentor agreement and a mentor within your project, the mentor's evaluation of the study's progress needs to occur as well. And that evaluation includes assessment of your progress towards the goals, the study's progress, the plan for completion, and any other pertinent comments. So these are your interim reports and your annual reports. So again, get the forms from the web page before we jump into this, and make sure and review those requirements. Now, the final reports from Tri-Service have been really slimmed down over the years. And so when you look at the final report, it won't include a lot of the elements that it used to include in the past. So it's a lot easier to finish up your final report because it's mostly the findings of your research study, which you need to write up anyway so you can get them published. So the purpose of the final report is really to provide findings for each of the study aims of your project. Additional findings that are applicable are also reported here. So you might have an unusual finding and you had to do further data exploration. You would put that in your final report. And then Tri-Service needs to know what's the impact on policy or practice or education for the military based on the results of your study. So make sure and include that. If the PI is or was a government employee during the course of the grant and accomplished the work as part of their official capacity, so let's say if you're in the military, you need PAO approval. These reports are going to be posted on publicly accessible websites. I am no longer in the military, but I use military subjects, and most of my all of my Tri-Service funded studies are within the military. So therefore, I always get PAO approval from actually one of my colleagues, whoever can get PAO approval the easiest, and for whomever it's least painful, that's who we get PAO approval from. PAOs are usually very rapid. It's not like an IRB approval, but in some facilities it does take a little bit of time. Others it doesn't. So You also might need OPSEC approval, Operation Security Approval, and the PAO person could let you know if you do need OPSEC approval. So if any Operation Security is compromised in any way because of your study, that might need to go for approval there. So that good rule of thumb is when in doubt, get PAO approval. So use the form template on that website. The grad students from USHUS could use the USHUS Form 3210. TSNRP recommends that your report not exceed 75 to 125 pages, including abstract, references, all tables and figures, but not appendices. Now your study, perhaps if it's a qualitative study, might be excessive pages, but I don't see a regular, even a 3-year award requiring 125 pages. The final report, again, is submitted to your grantee organization, who then submits it to Tri-Service, and submit your report on time. So these final reports aren't just submitted and put in a box or on a shelf. They're put on a website, they're looked at, they're reviewed by someone. Tri-Service has a panel of people they send final reports to. So you're going to be notified in writing that Tri-Service has received your report within 15 business days. The final reports will be evaluated based on the achievement of the study aims, the scientific merit, the grammar, correct formatting. This reflects on you as a principal investigator, and it also reflects on TSNRP. So if you have editing services that you can use or that you budgeted within your grant for the final report, please use those. It'll save you some time. Once approved, the Tri-Service Grants Manager will send the grantee and the PI an email stating that the report has been accepted or not, generally within 60 days of receiving the complete report. If it's not accepted, you might be asked to provide some additional information about one of your aims or some of your findings. The approved final reports are posted on the Defense Technical Information Center, DTIC. They're also posted in the Cumulative Index of Nursing and Allied Health Literature, or CINAHL. So the final report is publicly available, and it's your professional reputation on the line, and please don't take that lightly. If people read your work and it's sloppy, which I don't think Tri-Service would put it out there if it's sloppy, but if it is, that will reflect negatively upon you, and people in academia and in research have long memories for some of these things, so be really careful. You want your work to reflect you as a professional and as a military professional. Interestingly enough, I got an email today from someone who looked up my final report from the MILNOD on the Defense Technical Information Center and sent me an email wanting to borrow the data. Isn't that interesting? So people are looking here. They're looking for data sets, and they might find you through the Defense Tech Information Center. So what does that report look like? Well, there's a cover page that you must fill out, and if you'll refer to the actual final report cover page, you simply put your sponsoring institution, its address, your Uniformed Services University grant number, and then your project number, which is different than your grant number. The project number is the one that's on the grant agreement. It's N100, and then 2 other numbers for the year. The title, the period of award, applicant organization, and that's the page that you sign. The table of contents you're going to want to do last, because you don't want to paginate anything in the table of contents until you're finished with your report. Your abstract needs to be 300 words or less. And please use these headings: purpose, design, methods, sample, analysis, findings and implications for military nursing. These need to be standardized, and the 300 word limitation is specifically for the organizations where this is posted. You want to do the box check on which of the priorities the study addresses. And then here is where you write the meat of the results, and that is in the section called Progress Towards Achievement of Specific Aims. You want to list each specific aim and the findings, the relationship of the current findings to previous findings from the literature. And you don't want to just use your grant findings. You want to do a new review of the literature and see what other people are finding that's current. You want to list some problems or obstacles that might have affected your results or might have affected your sampling or might have affected your response rate. You want to address the limitations and conclusions as well. Important aspect of a military tri-service final report is this: what are the significance of the study results to military nursing? And then, are there any changes in clinical practice, in leadership, in management, education, policy that resulted from the study? If policy has not changed based on your study, but there's something in progress where it might change, I would add that too. And then, of course, your references. Another important area that you should probably keep up with throughout your study is a summary of your dissemination efforts. There's a table that you complete that lists the presentations, publications, poster presentations. Please separate them out. My research team usually uses a dissemination matrix to track what we're doing, and then we could easily cut and paste into the tri-service final report. But if you have a lengthy study, which now tri-service studies are 2 years, but you might have a continuation study where you're still publishing, you tend to lose track, especially if you're presenting a lot. So please keep a list of those. You need to know the date of PAO approval, and you need a record of PAO approval for every dissemination effort. So make sure you have those in a folder. So set up your folders on your computer once your grant is funded, so you'll have access to this information easily. Reportable outcomes need to be addressed if anything had to be reported back to the IRB. There's a recruitment and retention table. It applies to some studies to maybe secondary data analysis. It really doesn't, because you're not recruiting, you have a data set already, but that's pretty self-explanatory to fill out. There's a section on demographic characteristics of the sample, and in some of our organizational work, we put demographic characteristics of our hospitals or of our units or of our nurses. And then the final budget report is really a one-page, simple breakdown of the budget, and you get that from your grantee organization. So this is another reason why you want to finish as much as you could and then send it to them. They'll put the final budget report in. I always like the grantee organization to CC me as the PI on anything they send to tri-service, just so you know it was sent in the correct amount of time. The tri-service grants manager checks to see that the final reports are submitted in Word or PDF. Also checks to make sure that the PI and the mentor's signature, if applicable, are on the final reports. The grants manager will check for grammatical errors, but really as the PI you should be checking for that. You have spell check and grammar check on your machines, you can do that. And that the abstract is between 200 and 300 words and a final budget is attached. Again, final report template, go on the website. If you've downloaded one from a couple years ago, it's probably no longer current. Just as my IRB changes their forms, it seems like every few months now, it's made a habit of going to their website and downloading the latest form before you even start on any report. So do that with tri-service as well. Go on their website and find the most current reports. Follow all the instructions, and please delete all that red ink. The red markings are really instructions for you. Delete it before you submit that report. Again, reports take 90 days to post on the Defense Technical Information Center and CINAHL. And tri-service is really good about making sure that you don't turn your reports in long after they're due. They send reminders prior to the study closure date. And They do that also in case you might need a no-cost extension, but really you should have asked for a no-cost extension long before 3 months before the closing date. So think about that way in advance. Don't wait till the final report's due to ask. So with that, good luck on writing your final reports. I wish you well, and please reach out to the Tri-Service Grant Manager personnel if you have any questions at all about final reports. Thank you.